Welcome everyone to History Gone Wilder, part of Have History Will Travel. I'm your host, the Wilder historian, Dr. Lucas Wilder, and last time Benjamin Butler launched his part of Ulysses S. Grant's Sixth Offensive. Now, we move south and west to the main attack, resulting in the Battle of the Boydton Plank Road. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, join the Patreon page, and purchase something from one of my online stores. Every little bit helps. Thank you. As Benjamin Butler's Army of the James put pressure on the Confederates outside of Richmond on October 27th, the main Union offensive to the south and west of the Confederate capital was taking place. Parts of 3 Union corps moved to sever the Boydton Plank Road and hopefully the South Side Railroad, starving out the Confederates in Petersburg and forcing them to evacuate. General-in-Chief Ulysses S. Grant needed to work against time because if winter set in, then the wet conditions would prevent any further offensives, and the siege would ground to a halt. Winfield Scott Hancock's 2nd Corps, John G. Parke's 9th Corps, and Gouverneur K. Warren's 5th Corps moved out in the early morning hours of October 27th. Parke on the far right and Warren to his left deployed their troops for battle against the fortifications guarding the Boydton Plank Road. Confederate Major General Henry Heath from A.P. Hill's corps began to rush troops to bolster the defenses of those trenches. Heath claimed that his men barely got into position before Warren and Parke's men attacked his front. The casualties incurred by the Federals brought both Warren and Parke to a halt. It was 9 a.m. and the Union offensive had stopped just a couple hours into the maneuver. Grant and the Army of the Potomac commander George Meade rode to the front to see the progress of the main offensive. When Warren and Parke reported stiff resistance in their front, Meade and Grant consulted with one another and decided that Warren needed to break the stalemate by sending 2 of his brigades to the west of Hatcher's Run and attack the Confederate right flank. Warren took 2 of Crawford's brigades and 1 of Romaine Ayres's brigades and sent them west, crossing Hatcher's Run through a dense Virginia forest. Then those 3 brigades would swing northward, keeping their right flank anchored on Hatcher's Run, and march toward the Confederate flank. As Warren's men made their swing, Hancock's troops were also moving in the same direction, being ordered to keep the corps' right flank in contact with Warren. Confederate cavalry were being pushed back by Federal horsemen and Hancock's men. Wade Hampton, the Confederate cavalry commander, notified Heath of the movement and ordered James Deering's cavalry brigade to the Boydton Plank Road, but Heath stopped the movement, wanting the horsemen to remain at the trenches. Eventually, Heath released Deering, with the cavalry brigade occupying the intersection of the Boydton Plank Road with the White Oak Road, holding off Rugg's brigade of Hancock's corps. Deering was able to delay long enough that Hampton brought up more cavalry on the White Oak Road to hit the Federals in the flank and halt the movement. Meanwhile, part of William Mahone's division was making its way to the field, led by Mahone himself. In previous battles during the Siege of Petersburg, Mahone had launched devastating attacks against the Army of the Potomac, and it was hoped he could do so again this day. Thomas Egan, one of Hancock's division commanders, was frustrated by the buildup of rebels in his front and dispatched James Willett's brigade of New Yorkers to attack Deering and the other cavalry on the White Oak Road. One New Yorker recalled, "This road was a public highway in time of peace and was protected on each side by an old-fashioned rail fence. We formed in line at the right of the road and about 1/4 mile from the bridge where the Boydton Road crosses the run." Gershom Mott's division was slowly approaching Egan's position from the south. A soldier in the 124th New York of Mott's division remembered, "The farther we advanced, the sharper grew the skirmishing fire along Egan's front, and every few moments a wounded man would be carried past, toward the rear. Some of these men looked very pale and others presented blood-stained faces or garments, suggesting unpleasant thoughts to those who were pressing forward." Hancock was determined to reach his goal of the South Side Railroad, and wanted Mott's division to move up the White Oak Road and throw back the cavalry brigades there, then push northward. But before he could put his plan into action, Meade called a halt to Hancock's forces. The plan hadn't gone the way Meade had wanted. Warren and Parke were still at a standstill, so Meade wanted Hancock to work with Warren to break the Confederate flank, so Parke and the rest of Warren's corps could overwhelm the Confederate entrenchments.